I wasn't a practicer. I really
Okay.
wasn't. As a matter of fact, that same teacher, Julie Rubin, my parents had have him come over eventually and give me private lessons, which is once a week for an
Yeah.
hour. And I would never practice the lessons. And one day he just told my parents, I can't take your money. He's not practicing. The
Wow.
problem is that I learned by ear a lot of times, and I was able to do things quicker. Like I had a talent for it, but I never practiced it to make it right. And so that's why he quit on me. I had a couple of teachers quit on me, but then eventually, once I started getting the accolades and awards in school, like I would get the Louis Armstrong Award in junior high
Okay.
school, then I started saying, okay, now it's time to maybe practice. Or when you have to do the NISMA, I'm not sure if you guys have NISMA. It's
No.
where at a young age you have to pick a piece of classical music and you perform it in front of a jury of musicians and teachers,
Okay.
and they grade you on it. And I didn't want to get a bad grade, so that's when I decided to really practice that stuff.
Hello, you beautiful musicians, and welcome back to the Musician Guidance Podcast. My name is Mac. I'm the founder of Musician Guidance and podcast host. Today, I'm joined alongside one of the music industry's most prolific trombonists. Throughout his decorated career, he has shared his compositions with fans across the globe on the same stage as some of the music's biggest stars, including Aretha Franklin, Celine Dion, Jennifer Lopez, Billy Joel, Lionel Richie, Marc Anthony, and I could literally go on all day. Without further ado, Ozzie Melendez, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you, Mac. Nice to meet you, man. Hello to everybody watching.
Yeah, awesome. Likewise. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do this. I know we've been trying to arrange this for like what seems like a couple of months now. So I'm kind of glad we could, get it in before the hectic of the holidays all kick
Yes.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love doing these things. I love especially that it's for young what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Inspiring?
Aspiring.
No.
Aspiring.
Aspiring.
Yeah.
I was telling you before that I was doing these in Spanish. So now that I'm doing it in English, and that's my regular language, English.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I'm more than happy to do this. Yeah, this is exciting for me.
Awesome. And no, we've already both butchered a couple words, so we're good.
Exactly right.
Just to kick us off here. Let's start off with having yourself maybe share a little bit more about your story and who you are.
Well, like we said, my name is Ozzie Melendez. Parents from Puerto Rican descent. I grew up here on Long Island, fourth grade. Started playing trombone immediately. My best friend played trombone when he's a year older than I was.
Okay.
And so I would see him walk by the house to the bus stop carrying this big long thing, and it happened to be the trombone case. And so when it was my turn a year later, I kind of was a copycat. I said, well, I'll pick the trombone, and that's what I did there. Yeah, I live on Long Island, and I've been a musician my whole life, which is I'm 60 now, so it's been 45 years of actually touring and still studying.
That's awesome. And I wanted to kind of ask how you got into the trombone because I'm an alto saxophone player. I think it was in grade 6 when we had to pick an instrument to play. We tested out, the tuba, the trumpet, the trombone, and all that. And I couldn't make a noise with the trombone, let alone be in tune. I guess you kind of answered what drew you to it there, but I just getting into it more. How was it when, starting out with that? And what age were you again when you got into it?
Well, over here in Long Island, they started us at fourth grade. So that must have been what, 9 or 10 years old. And like I said, my best friend was playing a year ahead of me. He was playing trombone.
Okay.
And when it was time for us to pick an instrument, they had like an assembly. So they had like a jazz band come in, and they brought us all in. It was great because we didn't have to be in class. We were listening to music. And I'll never forget, it was a trombone player there. So I put the 2 and 2 together. My friend Frank was playing trombone but now he was in 5th grade. And I saw this man, Julie Rubin, who was a first call trombonist in the New York area. And he was playing that day. And because of Frank and because of Julie Rubin, that's why I decided to play trombone. And it is a very difficult instrument, trumpet and trombone, both the brass. I don't recommend it to anybody. My son, when he was about to pick an instrument, he said, "Dad, I'm going to pick the trombone." And I said, "Absolutely not." It's just very, very tough, demanding instrument. On a saxophone, you were able to pick it up and kind of get a note almost immediately. But on trumpet and trombone, it's tough. It's all about the buzzing of the lips. It's not just about blowing. It's just, it entails so much, and all the muscles in the lips and all that stuff, and in your face. And so I'm
Exactly.
happy that I picked it. Sometimes I'm happy that I picked it because I'm doing so well, but other times I'm like, damn, I wish I would have played piano, because you just wake
Right.
up and you could just play.
There
You
you
don't have to
go.
warm up or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did your son listen to you? Did he steer away from the
He did
trombone?
listen to me. He
Okay.
became a pro baseball player. He played
Really?
yeah. So he was playing baseball. He's
That's awesome.
25 now, so now he's in the corporate world.
Okay. So we totally went a different route, not just a different instrument. Right on. Okay.
Totally.
So when you were learning the trumpet, it's a very difficult instrument. Was it something that came natural to you, or did you kind of fall in love with it and you were, practicing every day, grinding out like,
Well, the trombone, I wasn't a practicer. I really
okay.
wasn't. As a matter of fact, that same teacher, Julie Rubin, my parents had him come over eventually and give me private lessons, which is once a week for an
Yeah.
hour. And I would never practice the lessons. And one day he just told my parents, I can't take your money. He's not practicing. The
Wow.
problem is that I learned by ear a lot of times, and I was able to do things quicker. Like I had a talent for it, but I never practiced it to make it right. And so that's why he quit on me. I had a couple of teachers quit on me, but then eventually, once I started getting the accolades and awards in school, like I would get the Louis Armstrong Award in junior high school, then I started saying, okay, now it's time to maybe practice. Or when you have to do the NISMA, I'm not sure if you guys have NISMA.
No.
It's where at a young age you have to pick a piece of classical music and you perform it in front of a jury of musicians and teachers,
Okay.
and they grade you on it. And I didn't want to get a bad grade, so that's when I decided to really practice that stuff. And then in jazz band, they'd want you to play solos because maybe they saw that you had some kind of a talent and you had a feel for music. So that's when I decided, okay, maybe I should start practicing. But at an early age, I didn't practice.
That's funny. Just kind of when there was something on the line, then you had to, yeah.
It's kind of still like that today. It's funny.
Yeah.
I practice every day. I really do. But I
Right.
practice for what's coming up. For example, this week now, I have this, he's a Latin, his name is Willie Colon. He's an old school salsa guy who is legendary. If anybody watching looks him up, you'll see he's a fantastic trombonist, singer, writer, producer. He's led the way for a lot of the Latin music that's out there today, salsa music. And so I've been playing with him for like 30 years.
Oh, wow.
His music is very, very demanding. Very demanding. It's high, it's loud. There's solo stuff. The instrument is constantly on your lips. So what I'm doing now is I'm preparing myself for that show in Puerto Rico where I'm doing a lot of long tones. I'm playing a lot of high and loud, and so I can prepare myself almost like you're in the gym, preparing yourself to do the next lift, trying to get stronger. That's what I'm doing now. But as far as practicing every day, like a certain regimen, I haven't done that in a while just because I do have a lot of work coming up with different artists. And so I tend to now prepare for the next gig, like I said. So if I'm playing with Marc Anthony, I know what I have to prepare for to do that gig. Or if I'm playing with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, that's a whole different style, genre of music. So now I'm playing more on the beat and more of attack. And so, yeah, that's what I tend to do now. As far as whatever's coming up, that's when I practice. But back in the day, you had to practice your scales, and you had to practice thirds and fourths, your diminished patterns. You had to practice your jazz licks and stuff like that. But I don't really do that much anymore.
Right. I was watching one interview you did, many years ago, and you mentioned that sometimes you'd get a call at night, and then you'd have to, go into the studio, I think it was, or something, and record, and you wouldn't necessarily know what you're doing. How were you able to, I guess, adapt on the fly? Because like you said there, it can be quite demanding to, learn these new things. And so how are you able to do that, I guess?
Well, again, that's back when I was doing a lot of practicing. So I made sure that I didn't want to be nervous. I mean, it's always good to be a little nervous when you go to the studio, but nervousness means it because you're not prepared. So I would try and prepare myself for every style of music. And, when the guy called me, I would always ask, what type of session is it? Because I want to know if I'm going in, if I'm playing a pop session, if it's going to be funk, if it's going to be a Latin jazz, if it's going to be salsa. That much I would like to know before I go in. Even if I don't get a chance to play anything that morning before I go, at least I have it in my head, in my ear. Maybe I'll play something in the radio, or I'll bring a CD with me to listen to, just to get involved in that music again.
Right.
But practicing every style of music, to me, is one of the most important things. Practicing every style of music, and also sight reading, being able to read, are really important to become a long-standing musician, because when they call you to do that session, if you don't do a good job, they're not going to call you again.
Sure.
So the idea is to be prepared for anything and everything, so that when you go in there, you can do as best as you can. And what you want to do is, ultimately, what I love to do is have the producer say, wow, that sounded fantastic. Then I knew I did my job.
Right.
If it's just like, okay, great, thank you, and that's it, then I didn't wow them. I like to go in and wow them. So yeah, so preparing, that's when you're younger, and that's when you have to listen and think, okay, what style of music do I want to become a session musician? If you do, then you have to try and learn everything, right? Or if you want to zero in on one thing. I always like to me, the more you know, the more you're worth. And I already knew that I wanted to make a living playing music, and so that's why I studied everything.
Right on. And would you say that led to you kind of having this long lasting career because you're able to do so much?
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right. Because like I said, when they call you to do something, they don't want to hear, well, I don't really do that. They want you, they're calling you because for whatever reason they found your name, or for whatever reason somebody mentioned them. You want to mention you, but you want to go in there and look at that music, hear the track, and be able to put what they wrote on that paper and make music out of it. Not just play it like you're playing an Arbin book study or any kind of study. You want to make music out of those notes, because that's what the producer or the arranger intended. He intended for music to, and he wanted to sound better than what he put on the paper, right? Because if you make it even sound better, that makes him look good. When you make your arranger and your producer look good, you'll keep getting called all the time.
That's good advice. Yeah. And I think
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like everything nowadays in music, but also just in like almost any other industry, is so specialized. So I think that's kind of good advice, though, to be able to provide this, breadth of, sound or knowledge or whatever it is to be able to land these different roles and be able to make music throughout your whole career when the times change. Like, I mean, we talked about how long you've been doing this, and you've seen the industry evolve in front of your eyes, right? You've seen record labels be the only way to break through, and now you can upload something on TikTok, right, and build a brand there.
It's a whole nother animal.
It's a whole nother animal. What would be, this is a super broad question here, but with the unknown of what's coming next in the music industry, what would be your advice to artists and instrumentalists now to set themselves up for success in the coming years?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because I remember 20 years ago, maybe even more. I'm really bad with time as far as that's concerned. Really, somebody will tell me, "No, bro, that was 5 years ago," and I'm thinking, "Wow, it was like 20." I think it was probably 20, maybe longer, when computers just started to come out in people's homes, right?
Right.
My friend back then, my friend Barry Donnelly, who's the lead trumpet player for Bruce Springsteen now, he told me back then, get a computer, set up your studio. Because eventually the big studios, and I didn't believe him at the time, but I still did it. I set up my studio, and I got a program, and I got my microphone. And to me, that was one of the best things I ever did, because he was right. A lot of the big studios shut down, and everybody's recording from their homes. What's going to happen now, moving forward? If you don't have a setup in your house, I recommend that you do. And I'm sure most of the people watching me probably do already. Almost everybody has computers in their homes. Right. But if you don't have a program, whether it be Pro Tools or Logic or any of those music programs, if you don't have that, I suggest you get yourself a mic, an MIDI interface. And because if you're going to be a session musician, a lot of times you're not going to the studios anymore. They're sending you the files. You probably know this. They're sending you the files. They're sending you the charts, or they're having you write the charts. And you're recording on your stuff, and you're sending it back to them. So in other words, I do a lot of sessions now in my underwear. I can come downstairs in my studio, and I print out the PDF. I look at it, I listen to what the track is, what kind of track it is, and boom, I start recording, and I send it back, and you get paid, obviously, to PayPal or Venmo.
Sure.
So I'm not really sure what's going to happen next. I just know that now, if you don't have that, if you're looking to be an aspiring session musician, or if you want to make music, it's very important now that you make that investment in buying yourself a nice setup. And it doesn't have to be, you don't need a lot these days. You really don't. You just need a computer that can handle audio. You need the interface. You need your microphone and either Logic or Pro Tools or any of those applications, and you're off and running. That, I think, to me, that's most important. And I thank Barry 20 or 25 years ago when he told me to do that, because it's really added on to my net worth. It's added on to how I can make money, especially now during COVID, right? During COVID, a lot of people were stuck in their homes, and a lot of people that were writing music and stopped because either they were touring or they were working, they couldn't finish, said, wow, I might as well finish this stuff now. So a lot of files were going back and forth during COVID. And a lot of musicians that had their studio set up made money because people were finishing their projects and paying to do so. So so I recommend that a lot to get your own studio set up for sure.
Definitely. That's great advice. And shout out to Barry there for helping you.
Yes. Barry's my boy.
Awesome. It's great to hear. Jumping around here a little bit, I was doing some digging on you, some detective work, if you will. And I know that you had a record, you were signed to Atlantic Records, I think it was in the 90s. And I saw that it wasn't, something didn't quite work with it. It was a little rocky or something. Are you able to describe maybe why it didn't work out, and then what artists should look out for in deals, in record deals?
That's kind of weird, because back then I got signed as a vocalist, as a singer.
Right.
And so I got signed for a minute. Nothing happened because the guy that signed me, back then it was called A&R, Artist and Relations. Those were the guys that would sign artists. They would go out and look around, and they would, if they really thought it was a great idea to sign you, they can make money on you, they would sign you. They'd give you a big advance, which that doesn't happen anymore either. They give you a huge advance. You'd make your record, your video, boom. If it hit, then you go out on tour, and they would recoup their monies before you got any money. They would recoup their money, and so on and so forth. I never got that far. I got signed, and again, I'm bad with time, but I want to say like an hour later. No, it wasn't an hour. Sometime thereafter, the guy that signed me got fired, or he quit. One of the two, I don't remember. Not because he signed me, or maybe, I don't know.
That was the final straw.
So he wasn't there anymore. So my project got shelved. And it was there for a while. Now, I had already signed a contract, so I had to get a manager. My manager had to get a lawyer, and they had to pull me off of that contract, and that's what happened. I'm not really sure what kind of advice I can give it. Everything is so different these days, like you said, with the TikToks and your YouTube channels and your Instagrams, and how you put stuff up on, how you sell your music, and the Spotify's and that stuff. I'm learning that now as well. But yeah, so that's what happened back in the 90s with my record deal.
An hour. Now, how long do you think it was? How long?
I want to say maybe a month or two.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I remember we celebrated. I remember my manager at the time, he was able to make a newspaper where you can make your own, like, it's a fake newspaper. It's a newspaper, but it said Ozzie Melendez gets signed to Atlantic, and it had my picture and me shaking hands with the artist. The guy's name was Joe. I want to say Caravello or Joe. I can't remember his name, but it was he and I on the front. It was hysterical. I wish I still had it. But
that's pretty good, though.
Maybe.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, do you have that framed?
That's what I'm saying. I don't have it. I don't know where it is. I've moved 3 times, maybe 4 times since then, and I don't know where that is. It could be that my old manager has it. I'll have to call him and ask.
Maybe he's got it framed.
Yes.
No, I was gonna say 2 months is pretty good to get out of a deal that wasn't working.
I'm not sure that it took 2 months to get out of the deal. I just know that after 2 months, I found out that he was fired and that they weren't going to do anything with my contract. I was going to be shelved. And that's where we all got panicky and said, well, let's see if we can jump somewhere else. Nobody else jumped on we got off, and I think they tried to put me somewhere else. I was never comfortable as a singing artist anyway. I always felt like I was a trombonist. I had gone to Berklee School of Music, and I had been studying, but I had a talent for singing, and so they tried to push me in that direction. I still love to sing, and I have stuff out now, but my main thing is trombone and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So I guess we didn't really touch on, when did you get into singing? Was it the same time you kind of got into playing the trombone?
Well, my manager at the time had a club date office. I'm not sure what they call it in Canada. It might be general business.
Okay.
It was a wedding office where
Okay.
he had like 6 or 7 wedding bands, and I happened to be in his band. And I forgot the question.
At what age did you get into
Oh, singing.
Yeah.
So, actually, it was before that. Now that I remember, okay, I was in a band called Subway when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
And everybody was a lot older than I was. They were all already in high school, and they were playing a bar called Wee Scotty's, and I was in the band, and I would have to dress up and act like I was of age when I wasn't.
Right.
But I would go and I would play. Well, the leader one night said to me that the singer was going to be late if I can sing a song or two, and I'm like, I don't know, I've never sang with you guys before. I happened to sing a song by, you're not going to know who this band is because they're really old, but they were called Bad Company. Okay. And the name of the song was Can't Get Enough of Your Love. And I wound up singing it that night. And then the singer came in, and not only did the singer and the leader say, wow, you could sing. And it was from there on that I decided, let me just sing a little bit. And so that's what I did. And so then, talking about my manager, way back when, he had that wedding thing, and I sang a lot of songs at the weddings. And I really enjoyed singing, and it's a lot easier than playing trombone.
Is it?
You don't have to warm up.
I can't sing to save my life, though. But
oh, I know, it's tough. I mean, I shouldn't say you don't have to warm up. You should warm up if you're singing as well. But I didn't, because I didn't really consider myself a singer. So, I would drink cold stuff. Like they say, don't drink anything cold before you sing. Don't eat pizza. I did all that stuff.
Did you have any superstitions too?
Nah, I don't have any.
No. Okay.
The only thing that I will say, and I don't know if it's superstitions, but it's something that I will never do again, is that if you have some work, let's say, for example, that, let's say it's stuff that you don't really want to do, but you're doing it, and then some really good stuff is coming, down the line, don't call and cancel those other gigs that you really didn't want to do because you feel high and mighty because other stuff is coming that you really want to do, because then that thing down the line will get canceled and you'll have nothing. That's what happened to me way back, and I said, you know what, I'll never cancel that other stuff again, so I do everything. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. I think that's important.
I think that's important too. I think we've all been in, I know I've been in the situation recently. You bank on something big happening, so you focus more on it and maybe cancel or just don't give your full attention to what's closer because it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
And then it gets canceled. Yeah.
That's exactly right. They pulls the rug out from underneath you. Like, why did I do that? It had to be because I was cocky and I canceled that other stuff.
But once you get burned once or twice, then you learn from it.
Exactly. That's the best way to learn. Get burned.
I agree. As long as it's not as long as it's not too devastating.
Yes.
Yeah. But okay, so you're coming out of this record deal, and so you're I guess, okay, going back a bit, you were, this artist coming out of this record deal, and then you decided to go full time into being a trombone player. Was that what led, I guess, to focusing more on being a trombone player rather than being, a singer now?
You're talking about after I was in that band Subway when I was in junior high school. Well, remember that I said that I went to Berkeley for trombone. I didn't go for vocal, so I went for trombone. Okay. And in true form, maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody, but the guys that I have spoken to, when they go to Berkeley, they don't stay the full 4 years, because if you're any good, you get picked up by somebody, or you put something together and you go out and you start making money. And so that's what happened. I went 2 years. I put something together that was very, 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 very good, and people wanted it. We played a showcase, and that's when I went to Canada. Hey. So, right. So we played a showcase, and it was Canadian buyers, Japanese buyers, and I forgot somewhere else. And we decided to go with the Canadian buyers, and so they booked us throughout Canada for 2 years. And I kind of wish I didn't do that, but I kind of wish I did get so again, for the people listening, if you do go to college, I recommend that you stay the full 4 years. Unless it's something incredible that you can't turn down, like, it's just an incredible, I don't even know what it would be, but something incredible. But for me, leaving just to go with a show band, I think I would have probably been better off if I had stayed the 4 years, learned more. I would have gotten my degree, maybe be able to teach, because I can't teach now, right? You need a degree to teach. But so I recommend the learning for 4 years. Now, having said that, it's not that I stopped learning. because I'm always with some great music, always was with a lot of great musicians that if I heard something that I liked, or if I saw something that they wrote, always asking questions, always learning. Now with YouTube as well, wow, you can get anything you want on YouTube. So constantly learning, constantly practicing, constantly staying on your game, waiting for that phone call. You want to be ready, because that phone call can only happen once. And if you're not prepared for it, it'll only happen once.
Exactly.
But if you're prepared and you go in there, guns blazing, your odds go up that you'll get that call again, either from that person, that producer, or that whoever it is, or they'll spread your name around, and that's how it keeps growing.
Definitely. And I'm all in support of staying in school too, but I don't know if you're necessarily a good case study for that, because you did end early, but look at your career. Exceptional. So
I got
maybe,
lucky with that.
well, I wouldn't, you're just by talking to you and hearing you, I know you saying you're not practicing, you didn't practice much, but I can tell that you were one to jump on opportunities. And I think that's what you need, that drive, I guess, to just say yes, right?
Well, let me clear this up too. There was a time for many years that I would practice, and now is one of them, where I would play or practice 6 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
And now is one of them. Again, to lead up to my shows that I'm doing now, I put in a lot of work every day. You have to, because now, especially now, where, back in the day, you could do a show and you can bomb, nobody's going to know about it. You do a show now and you bomb, it's all over YouTube and it's over. So you have to make sure that you're prepared, whatever it may be. Prepare yourself for it, and so I make sure that I do that. It's very important.
That's funny. Was that a motivating factor to you, knowing that it would be all over YouTube the next? Yeah,
it's definitely a motivating factor. Another motivating factor is, if you're playing in one of those level up bands, well, what's going to happen? You're going to be playing with level up musicians, right? A musicians. You don't want to sound like an idiot playing next to these guys. And P.S., that's another way to keep working. You got to make this guy and this guy happy with you. If this guy and this guy, now I'm talking about, for me, I'm talking about the trumpet player and the sax player. If I'm playing out of tune, or if I'm dying because I haven't been shedding and my chops are leaving me and I can't play the full show, or whatever reason, if I'm not doing a job and these guys are hating me, well, the next time something happens, they're not going to recommend me. Now, conversely, if, let's say, this guy gets a call to play with, one of the biggest bands on the planet, and they say to him, hey, do you know a trombone player? You just upped your odds, right? Every time you play in a situation, you got to make those musicians happy. Yes, of course, you have to make sure that YouTube and all that stuff is happy too. But these guys in the band, if you make them happy, let's say there's 8 other people in the band, well, you just increased your odds to get more work, because those 8 people are your calling card, right? Oh, I need a trombone player, or I need somebody to write some horn stuff. Oh, this guy was really great. Not only was he a great player, but he's a cool guy. He came on time. He came warmed up. He checked all the boxes. Yeah. That's really, to me, one of the most important things I can tell anybody in this industry growing up. Make everybody in that band happy. Don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk because you think you're better than everybody else, yeah, maybe you are better than everybody else. Nobody's going to call you.
Yeah. The music industry is so connected. Everybody has a connection to everybody. So yeah, if you're being a jerk, so to speak, I mean, that's going to not benefit you in the long run. And I think that what you said there too, you touched on it. It's more than just music. It's more than how great you sound. Are you somebody that they'd want to get a beer with, for example, after the show, right? Sure. Is that?
Yeah. Is that, and also, are you going to be on time? Is there a 9 o'clock session? I don't want to say in the morning, because that's rare, but it does happen. Let's say 9 o'clock at night. Are you going to show up at 8 to 9 and make everybody wait to have to warm up? There's so many things. Or when you do get there, are you going to sit there and show off and practice all your intervals and all your scales and all your, the stuff, the bebop that you've been practicing, and you drive everybody crazy? No. Go before you leave, warm up for your 15 minutes so that you're already kind of warmed up. Get to the session 15 minutes early, 20 minutes early. I like to get a half hour early, get a feel for everything, make sure if I need a pencil, make sure that I'm kind of warmed up. I warm up a little more. Don't go crazy. Don't start playing all your bebop licks and all your patterns that you're learning in every key. You're going to drive people crazy. Go and be professional. Go to that session, be on time. That stuff is so important. So important. I've seen so many guys get talked about because when they get to their Broadway show, they're subbing on a Broadway show and they're warming up, but instead of warming up, they're playing and they're doing all, and they're just driving people nuts.
Yeah.
Don't call that guy again. And then the guy wonders why he doesn't get called again. That's some advice that is worth so much right there. You know, have a clue on what's going on around you. Come prepared, be on time, and that's going to help a lot as well.
Definitely. That's almost like the unwritten rule to follow that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you do it once and
exactly
you learn it from like yourself.
And I have been there. I have done it once. I can remember thinking about, wow, what is that guy doing? And then remember thinking, oh my God, I remember doing that when I was, you know, and then I stopped doing it. But I remember doing that once. Like I was trying to big league somebody by showing them that I'm warming up, but look what I can play.
Yeah.
No. Make it for me. Don't do that. It's not good.
Sure. No, I totally agree with you. It is tough at the same time. If maybe it's your first opportunity, you want to show that you can play, right? But yeah, I mean, it's a fine line, but I'm totally in agreement with yourself on know your place.
The best thing you could do is just whatever you're called for, be on time, be warmed up, and kick butt on what you got called for.
And then you'll get called again.
And then you get called again. Like, wow, he did a great job. He came on time. He was prepared. He played in tune. He played the music the way it's supposed to be and better.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that guy. Oh, you know, can I have your card? That's something great to know that you did a good job. Or, wow, that's not a, you get that feedback and that fills you full of, wow, okay, I can do this. And then you continue from there. But conversely, if you go in there, it could be a disaster.
Sure. No, I totally agree. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I know you're doing a lot now. You're a vocalist, you're a trombonist, for, as I touched on in the introduction, Marc Anthony and many more legendary acts. Is there anything now you're working on that's upcoming that you can share about?
We just finished now touring this year with Marc Anthony. Now we started in August because of the pandemic. We didn't work, right? But we started touring, and I think a lot of people started picking up in August. But better than ever. I mean, people wanted to go out and hear music again, so people were buying tickets. A lot of bands were booking. Marc Anthony booked a ton of work. I think we worked more in those 6 months from August to December than we normally do the whole year.
Wow.
I think what they did was, and I'm not sure, and I didn't ask questions, and I didn't really care because I just love to work. I think probably the ones that got canceled before that, they were able to find spots for, and you know, when we did start working again, so we doubled up. And a lot of the other bands, a lot of the older bands, for example, you know, I shouldn't say older bands, but yeah, older bands like Diana Ross or the Blood, Sweat, and Tears, they also started getting calls for booking. So all that stuff started happening. So a lot of my colleagues we were all very happy because everything opened up again. People were starting to work again. And I know for me, for one as well, during the pandemic, I did a lot of practicing as well, because I said to myself, I would love to come out of the pandemic better than when I went in. Right.
You got that mindset. Yeah.
Right. So meaning either I was going to write more songs. I actually wrote my flexibility book for trombone and trumpet during the pandemic. It's something that I had been working on as far as the flexibility on the trombone since 1980 at Berkeley. I heard this guy, Bill Watrous, he's dead now, but the most amazing trombonist to ever live. He has this cadenza in one of his albums called The Fourth Floor Walk Up.
Okay.
If you're a trombonist or any musician want to hear something amazing, I recommend that you look at, his name is Bill Watrous, Fourth Floor Walk Up. And the name of the record was called Manhattan Wildlife Refuge. And the song was called The Fourth Floor Walk Up. And he had a couple of cadenzas in that song. Just amazing. Amazing doodle tonguing or double tonguing as some other guys may play, but he did a doodle tongue, and he did this stuff called flexibility, like unbelievably. And back in 1980, I'm like, how can I play that? How do you work on something like that? This guy's a freak. And so I asked my teacher at Berkeley at the time. He said it was too advanced. And so I decided to try and devise my own exercises to be able to get to the point where I'm able to play that. Portions of that cadenza. And so that's what I did. And I broke it all down, and I made these exercises, and I did etudes, and I did I had the metronome at 62, and I did that for oh my God, the guys at Berkeley, my friends, wanted to kill me. That's all they heard from me
Yeah.
in the practice room, was me practicing these studies. Anyway, so now when I was in the pandemic, I decided, you know what, that's something I can do. I can write the book. I have the studio. I can play all the exercises that I'm doing at different tempos. It starts out at 90. I didn't want to start at 60. Everybody else should start out at like 60 something, but I started at 90 for the book and the audio, and I ended up at 210, I think, really fast. But that's one of the things I did. And the same thing with trying to get my register to move up, because as I got older, I started losing a little bit of register. So all that stuff happened during the pandemic. I'm not sure why I got on that, but I just know that it's important that you find your spots to better yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that was something I remember a long time ago. There was a clinic with a famous trumpet player here in New York, Glenn Drews. He played with everybody. Woody Herman, he played with everybody, and did all the Broadway shows. And I remember asking him, how does he practice if he's always on tour? Like, what does he? How does he practice? And I just remember telling him he can't, because he's trying to recoup from the night before, or maybe he might be playing some stuff. So when you find that opportunity, like now, I finished Saturday. My last gig was Saturday. Now my next gig is this Saturday. I have this whole week. I fly on Friday though, so I have this whole week to prepare for my next show. And so I'm using that opportunity to practice and to make sure that I don't bomb, and YouTube or the guys, like I said, all around me don't go, oh my God, he's losing it, call somebody else. All important stuff. I'm not sure how I got to that, but I know that this is upcoming guys that want to know this kind of stuff. And to me, this is so important. That's why I keep coming back to it. Be prepared, man. We got to be prepared. And listen to the stuff from long ago. Listen to that stuff so that you're phrasing properly. There's a lot of guys out there now, younger instrumentalists, that haven't listened to Jerry Hay, haven't listened to like Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, the band Chicago, to listen to that phrasing, how a horn player or a horn section should phrase. Even Count Basie, even the big band stuff. So important. The guys today can play their instruments. They're amazing, but they're not phrasing. They sound like MIDI. A lot of guys sound like MIDI. It sounds like it's very well played, but there's no grease on it, because they haven't heard the stuff that I grew up listening to and playing. I have a band called the Funk Philharmonic. We do all the Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, all that stuff. And so we put that stuff that I learned back then to good use, playing that music. So that's important too. Make sure that you guys are listening to, like I said, Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire. Listen to Chicago. Listen to anything. There was a guy. He's dead now, but he was a great singer named Al Jarreau. Jerry Hay did all the. As a matter of fact, Jerry Hay is known for, he did Jerry Hay, Al Jarreau, but Jerry Hay did so many pops. He did all the stuff for Michael Jackson, all that stuff. There's so much stuff, and that's the phrasing, in my opinion, that the guys should be working on, as well as their technique and all the stuff that everybody has to practice. But don't snooze on the phrasing, man, because the phrasing is what's going to set you apart. There are a lot of guys that are going to be able to play the stuff that's written, but when you phrase it, where people go, "Oh man, that's music," that's where you're going to get the calls.
Amazing. That's you hit the nail on the head there, right? Like, that's not something I'm not an instrumentalist now, but if I was, that is like, I'd clip that and just re-listen to that.
It's really important.
Yeah,
it really is.
Exactly. And also, you touched on there, during the pandemic, you kind of focused on some other stuff in a sense in music. And I think that's what's so good. There's always going to be doors slamming in your face, especially in the music industry. We talked about things down the road just getting canceled or just falling through. And I think that's so important, to be able to, shift your attention and, learn something else that is going to build you up as a musician, build you up as an instrumentalist, and allow you to, get different opportunities in the future. And that's something that you've done. And I think that's something that's very important to incorporate too.
Yeah. Keep your head in. Anything that you think that you're interested in, dive in. There's no reason why you can't these days. Like I said, we keep mentioning YouTube. If you want to be a better arranger, for example, right? You want to arrange for four horns. Just go on YouTube and say arranging for brass section.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to learn to drop two, drop four, drop 2 and 4. You're going to learn, where to put the voicings, what instrument plays what, what octaves, how to write for each instrument. It's all there. So if you really want to do it, there's no excuse anymore. There's no excuse for anything. You want to learn how to play congas? I don't know if you see those back there.
I saw those. I do. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to learn how to play congas? Well, boom, conga lesson 1, and do it. I have drums back there too. Whatever it
I
is.
see them, yeah.
Yeah. There's no reason why you can't, but you have to want to do it. And I just love all types of music. I love all that stuff. So for me, it's fun to do.
Right.
If it's a pain for you to do, well, maybe you should find something else to do. I don't know, but I enjoy, playing my horn. I enjoy making music, whatever it is, whether it's, singing or writing or it's, I really enjoy it. And I enjoy learning too from other guys that are amazing. A lot of my friends, most of the guys that I know are just amazing, amazing musicians. Way better than I am. They just are fantastic.
You're too humble.
I learn from guys every day. You have to. That's the thing, we're musicians, so we learn with our ears. You got to hear. You got to listen. You hear something you like. Oh my God, like you did. I guess you heard something from my Instagram and you said, "Wow, I want to know more about this." Well, yep. I do that all the time. If I hear something I like, I'm not gonna. I don't know. Some guys are more like, "Yeah, okay." And no. How did you do that? How did you study that? Can you help me out with that? Like, it's just very important to do that as well.
For sure. One thing I like to say is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You're probably exactly heard that. Right. Yeah.
Yes. I haven't heard that, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I try to live by that. So here I am. Definitely not this. You're in the wrong room here.
My friend says if you walk into the room and you don't know who the idiot is, it's probably you. That's the one I heard.
I like that one too.
And he didn't use the word idiot. He used a really, he said something really nasty. He said something nasty.
Nice. Well, thank you for keeping it PG.
Yeah, you gotta keep it.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Ozzie. I really enjoyed this chat. Thank you for your time. Anytime. And for sharing some really great knowledge with our community. Before I conclude this podcast, where can our viewers, find you on social media?
Well, I have Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. Okay. Not as much anymore because they say that Facebook is for the older people, and I'm trying to stay young.
So you're on TikTok too?
No, I actually do have a TikTok account, but I just can't keep up with everything. So my main focus now is on Instagram. That's what I've been doing lately. And you can find me Ozbone, Ozbone, or I guess if you do Ozzie Melendez, it'll come up as well. But Ozbone. Let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Felt like that.
I'll have a link in the description too, so they can just click it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there you can find there's a flow page there, and also for the trombonists if they want. A lot of guys have always asked. I know I'm gonna make this real short. A lot of guys ask me all the time about my blue mouthpiece. I've been playing it for 15 years. It's a plastic mouthpiece. They've been asking me about it forever. And so I decided to put out a line of plastic mouthpieces. And the reason why I play plastic is because it just feels so friggin' good on my lips. I can play long. Yeah, it's just amazing. So that's something too, and that's put out by it's in partnership with a company called Victory Instruments. Okay. And I play their trombones, and next year they'll have an Ozbone series trombone as well.
That's awesome.
And so if anybody's interested in that, yeah, you can keep a lookout for that.
I'll have a link to that too in the description. That's awesome and very cool. For those watching, let Ozzie be an inspiration to yourself. That a long-lasting, sustainable career in the music industry is within your reach with hard work, dedication, and a persistence to learn and get better. Until next time, take care and keep making music.